Hey guys, this episode of the podcast is brought to you by a limited time offer from photography.com.
Yeah, Carlin turns on the TV, Christian flips off the screen, cause there's no good children's shows that he's seen. We've got dogs with blogs, superheroes in the ER. All dads are dumb and kids have better PR. Carlin just smile, Christian sits with the scowl. He complains to his son, all the kids shows suck now. They sit and discuss the show's plus and minuses while you listen or watch on YouTube to the arguments. Who is right? Is it the son or the dad? Either way you get to laugh knowing Christian is mad. So pull up a chair, get the corner poppin'. Here's a new episode of What Are We Watching?
Now, photography.com is the place to take your photographs and transform them into works of art. They can print your photos on canvas, framed canvas, metal, acrylic. They have photo clocks, they have photo chalkboards. They have more options available. And right now, I have a limited time offer for you. If you go to photography.com/PlaidDad15, you can buy one and get 3 free. That is a crazy offer, and with the season coming up, this is perfect for Christmas gifts. Buy one, get 3 free. Oh, and guess what? They're gonna throw in free shipping as well. This is a deal you can only get through our podcast. So go to photography.com/PlaidDad15. Hey, send us a pic of the photograph you choose, and maybe send us a pic of the canvas or acrylic or metal or clock or chalkboard that you get your photo printed on. We would love to see it. This is a great deal. We are so happy to offer this to our listeners and our website users. Photography.com/PlaidDad15. Buy one, get 3 free plus free shipping. You will not get a better deal this Christmas season. Again, photography.com/PlaidDad15. Check them out. I know you'll be excited. Now let's get on to the episode. Hey guys, we are here for this special, not mini, but mega episode of the What Are We Watching podcast, the podcast where I watch horrible kids' TV shows with my son, Carlin.
They're not horrible.
Most of them are horrible.
No.
We have the exception to the rule today. It got a 7 out of 10 from me, basically just because the dad was so awesome, and we're here with the dad. I'm going to count him as the star of the Thundermans. Who else matters? Mr. Chris Tallman.
That is the best intro ever. Thank you. And stay on him, Carlin. Don't let him talk down your favorite shows. You have to show him why you love these shows.
He does, actually. We had a very intense discussion about Little Einsteins.
Oh,
and
okay.
Everybody, it seemed to be like a sacred cow, Little Einsteins, but I was like, this show is really bad. I really hate this show. It's not educational. It's throwing crap on the wall. A monkey could literally make this show.
I like the art. I like it like when they go into
Exactly,
the paintings.
that's what I told him.
Okay, then
Yeah,
let's get
the
into
art
it
is
for
cool.
just one quick second with Chris
All
Tallman.
right.
I will get into it with you.
Fair enough.
The fact is, they draw the kids a certain way, then the background art is another way. They have like a kangaroo that they try to make realistic, which really just gives him dead eyes. Then they're like, here's some Aboriginal art. And the whole time they're playing white European trumpet classical music in the background instead of Aboriginal instruments that they could be doing. It's everywhere. It's all over the place.
So your criticism is it's a little too scattershot, and you'd like a little more focus in it.
Well, I love scattershot on like SpongeBob. It's great.
Oh.
But if you're selling a show as being, hey, we're really educating your kids and giving them entertainment, maybe you focus in on 2 things. You know, you have only 2 or 3 stories, an A, B, and C story in your show. This show's all over the place. And I'm like, it can't be educational if it's trying to do everything.
But it's only one story.
I know, but they're all like that. It drives me nuts as a dad because he's like, oh, I feel like I've learned something. I'm like, what did you learn? He's like, there was cool art. I said, okay, who were the people that made that art? You know, they never say. So he's like, I don't know, some cave people. I'm like, oh, that's great. You've got instead of saying
tell you
Aborigines, cave
who
people,
made
you
the
racist.
music.
They do have
That's
good
true.
classical music. That has nothing to do with where they're at. These are the conversations we have, and we did not have it about your show because it was
That's it.
better.
The debate will continue on and on. There's no winners here.
No, there's not. Just our viewers.
Yeah, that's true.
And thank you for joining us. We really appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me, guys.
All right, so we want to get started. Do you want to ask Chris any questions, Carlin?
Sure.
Okay.
So, how was your Thanksgiving?
Good question. It was great until I have two daughters. They got food poisoning that night. The first one around midnight, and the second one around 4 a.m. So I'm sure you can appreciate this. So we were up all night, and the vomiting stopped around noon the next day. Yeah.
Oh.
So yeah, but fortunately it was a 3-day weekend, so we had that extra time just
to vomit.
Just to clean up, try and get some naps in. We watched movies and stuff like that. But the food was delicious.
Well, now, how did they get sick? Did you cook the food?
That would be the normal way.
I mean, was it your fault? Was Dad cooking the turkey?
No, we were over at a friend's house. We think it may have been, they were at another friend's house the day before, and it may have been something, they were like frosting like holiday cookies.
Oh.
And so there was, I guess, like some raw egg in the frosting. So it might have been that.
Right.
We don't know. What we do know is that we were over at a friend's house meeting their family for the first time. So it was like almost 30 people. So as soon as the girls started throwing up, I had this nightmare of, we just infected a whole family. And fortunately, nobody else got sick. So we're like, it probably wasn't a flu.
Right.
It was that's why I'm kind of like, it's got to be some kind of food tummy thing.
Don't let me be patient zero. That's all. About.
Well, especially as a parent, you're like, as soon as like one of your kids starts getting sniffles, you start feeling, where did we just go? Who did I just ruin by getting them sick with some kind of, snotty bug thing?
All right. Well, that was more than you expected to find out.
Huh?
Yeah.
Is that too much information? Should I back off that a little bit?
Really
It was fine.
All right. How was your Thanksgiving?
Oh, it was pretty good.
Yeah, what'd you have? What's your favorite dish on Thanksgiving?
Cranberry sauce.
Really?
Canned cranberry sauce.
Really? I love like the stuffing and stuff like that. I'm more like a carb guy.
Well, other than cranberry sauce, it's green bean casserole.
Oh, that's a class with like the crispy onions on top.
Yes.
Oh, so good. I could eat that like cold out of the fridge.
Well, we fried our first turkey, so that's why I asked, did you get everyone sick? Because I was worrying about getting everybody sick if I didn't fry it the right way.
How'd the fried turkey turn out?
Perfect. It was an indoor turkey fryer.
Oh, that's nice. I have friends who've done that before, and the thing that shocked me, this was outside, was just, when you pull it out, just the amount of oil that all of a sudden is everywhere.
Yeah, this one's nice. It just sits in a basket and drains. It's indoors. It's awesome. It's a QVC.
and the meat turns out so good because that skin is it's locked in.
Right.
So it's real juicy, and it's just like a really like delicious turkey essence.
Yes, and I followed Mr. Altenbrown's instructions to the T.
That guy's a genius.
You got to do it.
You have to.
So you have lots of superpowers on your show.
Yeah, I got a few.
If you could have only one in real life, what would it be?
Oh, flying, for sure. I just think flying is the coolest thing in the world, just to be able to like go up there and soar. A lot of people, I always feel like whenever you hear some version of that question, it's always between flying or invisibility. I don't want to be invisible.
I was thinking invisibility.
Is that what you would want? Now, why? Because you like spying on folks?
Honestly, yeah. That would be cool.
Where's the first place you'd go to spy on somebody?
I would go to spy. If I was a villain, I would go to spy on the bank.
Oh!
That's not spying, that's stealing.
Fine. Fine.
Potato. Really? I like flying. I think the strength would be really fun too, but I feel like that, I don't know, in day-to-day life, strength, like being able to pick up a car or something, not that often. But flying, like, you can get anywhere you want to. Anytime you're bored, just soar.
Yeah.
What about teleportation?
Yeah, I like that, but I think there's something about the physical act of like going up into the sky. Like anytime I'm in an airplane, I like staring out the window and just kind of looking at the clouds. There's a ride here in California. There's Disneyland, and then there's another park called California Adventure. There's a ride there called Soarin' over California. Have you ever seen it? It's
No.
I don't know how to describe it. It's sort of like a flight simulator. You sit in a row of chairs, and then all the lights go out. And what you kind of realize is, after the fact, all the chairs are on a giant kind of crane. So if they're
Right.
sitting flat like this, it goes up. So now all of a sudden you're 30 feet off the ground,
Ooh.
and you're in front of a huge, it's not IMAX, but it's that type of giant screen
Right.
that is just footage of flying, and the whole gimbal moves, and they put in wind, and
Yes.
they put in smells that sort of coordinate with it. And to me, it's the only time I've been like, oh, I'm actually flying.
Yeah, that's awesome.
It's my favorite.
Yeah,
It's
we
so-
have a low rent version of that at Busch Gardens here.
Oh yeah,
Not
What's
quite
that?
so nice.
But it's that. But it's you know
But
what
yeah,
I mean?
it's that
the same
simulation
thing.
flying. Yeah.
And when they get the motion just right with the movie, I'm
Yeah.
like, oh, I could do that all day long.
Yeah, there's one point where they make it look like you're going to drop, and you're like, oh, that feels real. You know, just for
Oh,
1 second. So
That's cool.
yeah.
You guys like amusement parks?
Love it. Love it.
Roller
Yeah.
coasters? Do you like
Yes,
roller
I
coasters?
love roller coasters. I've ridden every one of them at Busch Gardens.
Do you prefer more like the corkscrew or like the big up and down? Like, what do you like?
Big up and down.
It's so cool, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like the moment when you're completely, like you're perfectly upside down, you're staring down at the ground. It takes my brain a second to go, oh wait, I'm really doing this. Like this isn't just going fast.
Right.
I'm completely inverted.
Yeah,
It's
He likes it so much. We got him behind the scenes where they got to walk up on the coaster and do all that kind of stuff. So that's
how do you
a cool
do that?
thing.
Is that like a special pass?
Yeah,
Yeah, you get
it's one of
there's
these. You pay the
Ah.
money.
you kind of there's like an elevator sort type
Okay.
where you're not allowed to go.
Right.
Maintenance
And
shaft, basically.
I wasn't old enough to go yet, but everybody else did, but we got to ride each roller coaster twice.
That's fun. And also, I would imagine the getting to walk up, sort of, I guess that would be sort of on the bottom of the track when it's upside down. That's like a once in a lifetime experience, right? Just getting to see that.
Yeah, once I'm older, I really want to walk on the sides of like Verbolten and
Every single
underneath.
roller coaster.
We did get to walk under Verbolten. Yeah.
How old do you have to be?
I think I forgot. I think you have to be like, I don't know.
Probably 12 or something to do
Well,
some of it.
how old are you?
Yeah.
He's 9, but they let him do.
Oh, so close.
They let him do everything but one thing. So
Got
he
it.
got through
Okay.
mine. So that's
But now you have
okay.
something to look forward to. That 12th birthday, it's going to be like, wake up, here we go.
Yeah,
Okay,
I'm
it's
so
school
looking
day.
forward to it.
Say that again.
I'm so looking forward to that. Yeah, at 6 in the morning. Yeah, they don't open for 4 hours. Shut up and go to sleep.
That's how it is right
All right,
now.
well, he already answered your question about is he a dad in real life. Why don't you just jump onto that one that you were curious about?
Sure.
Do you feel like a dad to your younger co-stars?
Yeah, I do. I definitely feel like in the scenes, anytime we have a scene where, either I'm trying to either like console them or give them advice, that strangely enough now comes very easy to me because I don't have to do any imagination about that. And we all really get along. We all really like each other. I mean, which is how you hope every job is, but it doesn't always go that way. I'm sure like with school or at your job, there are some people you get along great with. There's some people who are fine, and then there's a couple people you're like, eh. But here, we all genuinely get along and like spending time together. So I really enjoy those scenes. The show tends to be more jokes. So the times when there are actual like emotions and caring, as both an actor and a father, I like that. Because I think about my kids watching the show, and I'm like, I would, I want to do a good job. I would like to try and show them like, oh yeah, parents care. We want our kids to turn out okay.
Right, definitely.
Yeah.
Okay, big question. Do the laughs on the show come from the studio audience, a laugh track, or both?
It's both. And I feel like, at least I know, because I know when we're filming a scene, we want every episode to be shot in front of a live audience. And because of special effects and the kids' schedule, like the younger kids, like Maya, who plays Chloe, she is only allowed to work 6 hours a day. So and they're very good about paying attention to, nope, we're at whatever, 5 hours and 45 minutes. We're not going to have enough time for that scene.
Right.
But in a perfect world, everything would be shot in front of the live audience. And I think it really helps because I come from a background of doing live comedy theater. I've done like a lot of improv and a lot of just straight theater. There is nothing like having that connection with the audience. They laugh sometimes where you think they will. Other times it's a complete shock. Something strikes them about the way somebody said a line.
Right.
Also, sometimes the laughs are longer or shorter, and you can tell in the scene it changes the rhythm. You know what I mean? Like you can kind of see, oh, they're just holding. They're just waiting for the audience to calm back down. And as an audience member, I love that, because then I feel like I'm there. I'm watching it like a play in the room with those people.
Yeah, there's nothing better than being, and bad too, of being on stage and you say something and it gets a laugh when you're not supposed to, and you're like, why did it do that? And you can never get it back.
Oh,
you
no.
try, and you're like, I did something perfect the other night. I didn't record it. What am I doing? And then you drive yourself crazy trying to get that laugh again.
Absolutely. I've had times when, like, sometimes you audition for something and you get the job and you're not quite sure why. And then while you're filming it, the director might kind of lean out and say, hey, in your audition, you did this thing, like you kind of did like a funny cough in the line. Can you do that? And you stop and you go, oh, I just coughed. But you realize that genuine behavior, that's what got you the job.
Right.
Comfortable enough to be a real person, as opposed to a very prepared kind of artificial performance in a way.
Just imagine all of that tape they rewatched after you've been there, and they're like, that coughing guy, that guy that had the flu that day, that was really it. We're going to need you to get a flu for 6 months while we film this.
Yeah. the germ spreading guy. We like that guy.
All right, so we look you up online, and of course, I've seen you in lots of different things, and we have a lot of discussions about special effects on our show, which makes you perfect to talk to, because you created your own show, Time Belt.
Right.
Now, I don't know if you wrote your own Wikipedia entry on Time Belt, but
I did not.
What it says is that you purposely used low-budget special effects because that's the look you wanted. And I was wondering, is that really true, or did he have no budget and that's why he had low budget?
Oh, that is exactly the case. I'm very flattered that somebody was like, oh no, that was a very clever choice.
Right.
Thank you.
That is great.
When I made that show, it was for a group of people here in Los Angeles called Channel 101.
Right.
And the premise is really simple. It's like a short film festival, but if the audience votes at the live screening, and the top 5 vote getters are considered like picked up like a TV show.
Right.
And so you have to make them, it has to be less than 5 minutes, and it has to be made within that time period of a month. It's a monthly show. And I don't have any money, but what I do have is talented friends. Like you'll notice, like it's the same white crappy Honda Accord in the whole show, because that's my car. Right. A lot of it's just in apartments. Like the end of that first episode, when I'm in that weird like tin foil room, that was, if the camera had been running, you would have seen I'm just standing in my living room, and for about 2 hours, me and my friend Matt are just taping roll after roll of aluminum foil to everything. And then I had Christmas lights, and that's sort of what's creating sort of the weird lighting. Oh yeah, it's absolutely cheapo budget. I like the look of that though. There's something, it feels very homemade. I think the intention in general with all of Channel 101, not just my show, but a lot of them, it's if we had $1 million, we'd spend it. Right. But yeah, I think the average budget for Time Belt was somewhere around between $50 and $100 per episode, depending on how many guest stars I had, who I would then buy lunch for as a way of paying them for being in it. Like that was sort of it.
That's great. Well, we have little pieces of set we built here for little videos we do online. Like we have a interview room in a jail, and it's just something that sits in the middle of the room. And I was explaining to him, as long as the camera is on a certain spot, that's all you need.
Yeah.
That's what you need for special effects. And
you've
we
got the
watched,
green screen right behind you.
Right. We use this little green screen, and then we have a bigger one that we use for other stuff. But I told him, in a way, we already have better equipment than you did when you were filming Time Belt, just on our laptop. And
the quality of
Right.
this interview right now
is more than
1,000 times better than anything we did. And like, I have my friend who helped me film it. Like he's a real director of photography, you know, and he would bring all kinds of equipment. Like all the equipment I would use to film are like, I would go to the hardware store and buy clip lights, just like those cheapo work lights.
We have a couple.
Yeah, I have like 10 bright orange extension cords and power strips.
Right.
And, you know, you lay them at your feet, and you can, so that way you can hit the switch in the middle of a scene if you want to try and do a lighting effect. Yeah, Time Belt was particularly good for me because all I really want to do is act.
Right.
But when somebody's not hiring you to do the job you want to do,
you make
you
your
have
own.
to make it. So I learned through that how to edit. I learned how to do special effects. Like the episode with the dinosaur, there's that one shot where the toy dinosaur hand comes in and picks up the cave woman. My friend basically explained to me what rotoscoping is.
Right.
And so that's what I did by hand. We figured out the one shot, and we converted it into a QuickTime file, and then through QuickTime you can turn those into individual photos.
Right.
And then in Photoshop, which I'm no good at, like he showed me the tools and just sort of like, so I would just frame by frame erase her body where the dinosaur hand was, and then you put it all back together, and it, in a really cheapo way, it looks like it's picking her up. But like now I know how to rotoscope, which is
now Adobe actually does it for you. You just tell it, I want this rotoscoped, and it goes back. That was one of the beauties of the upgrade I did recently. I was like, oh, it does that for me now. I don't have to spend 20 hours on one shot. I can just let it do it for me.
The nice microphones you have, I feel like, especially if you're doing any kind of home movie, if you're going to spend your money in any one place, on sound.
Yeah.
Sound is so much more than, like, if the picture's okay, the audience is forgiving. But if they can't understand the words, they're out.
Right.
It does not matter.
All right, this is awesome stuff you're getting. Soak it in. Soak it in.
I will.
Learn from my dumb mistakes.
So the fact that you had your own show and you did your own special effects on a budget, we always talk about special effects on the show. One of the things we talk about on shows like yours and some of the other kids shows with superheroes is that they really don't show superpowers very much.
Right.
And I've always said that that's probably budget and time concerns.
Yeah.
Do you think that that's mainly the reason that you don't have laser eyes in every episode, or that a lot of the powers are, oh, I'm going to do this and make the guy move, that kind of thing? Because
I think it's a combination of factors. I think one part of it is violence. Like a lot of the superpowers, especially, like in a comic book or like a superhero movie, a lot of those powers are towards the service of like some kind of fight or combat.
Right.
But with like our show, there's very, for good reason, very serious rules about like nobody can ever get hit in the head, for example. That's like, if there's ever a thing, you're not going to see punches to the head. It's just a standard rule because God forbid a kid sees that and thinks, oh, that's what I should do. So
like your sister,
yes,
who tried to hit somebody in the head with a real billy club I bought her for Halloween. Mistake on my part. On my part.
But now we call that a learning experience. That's what that was.
It was a preacher that she tried to thunk on the head too.
Oh.
She said he was trying to get away from me, Papa. I handcuffed him and he ran away. She was going to thunk him with a real wooden nightstick.
Oh, now that preacher's learned a valuable lesson.
I had to apologize. I said, he's going to send you straight to hell, so you got to calm down.
So, like, that's a good example. And as a parent, I kind of appreciated that. I was like, oh, that's good to know. But then as far as, like you're saying, like with budget, I definitely think that's a concern. But I do know, like, we work on a weekly schedule, which means like on a Monday morning, we'll read through the script first, and then we'll rehearse it for several days, and then we'll film it Thursday, and then we'll shoot in front of the live audience on Friday. I know that one of the changes that happens throughout the week is that they'll say, we really want to try and get some demonstration of powers, even if it's just something as simple as like, let's stretch a hand to open the refrigerator, for example.
Gotcha.
Because a lot of times it's like, well, there isn't a place for zapping with somebody, but maybe she can zap a pizza to warm it up, because they do want to have that in there.
Yeah, it's necessary, because we've talked about that on a couple of shows we watch. I said, I don't think there was a superpower except in the theme song. You know what? And they're right. That's important. And your show has more of them than others.
I think they try to do it. We are very lucky that we have a really talented editing and post, which is like all the special effects. Like, they're very talented. And they do a great job, too, of trying to make things happen practically, which means like actually while we're filming the scene, as opposed to all after the fact. But you know, some things, like example, stretching, there's no way to make stretching. But like the first time they handed me like a breakaway, like a cinder block that looks real, and it even has the texture of it, but as soon as you squeeze it, it just crumbles into dust. First time they handed me one of those, I was like, I know I'm not super strong, but I think I'm kind of super. I think
it made you feel awesome.
You really do, because there's something about the way it's designed. It's basically just like a powder that's put into a mold. So when you first squeeze it, there is a natural resistance. So like it doesn't just immediately disintegrate. So you squeeze it, and for half a second, you're like, uh-oh, it's not breaking. I really got to... And so then you squeeze as hard as you can, and then it immediately shatters. And so, again, you kind of trick yourself and go, I'm the strongest man in the world.
How awesome is that? I mean, you're only a few years older than me. How awesome is it that now in your life you got to be Christopher Reeve Superman for just like 5 minutes? I mean...
it's the best, because I come from, like, I'm a huge nerd. Like, I love... movies and comic books and toys and all that stuff. Like, that's what I love. So the fact that I get to mix that and comedy, which I love doing, like, I'll never get another job like this. This is sure the most fun I've ever done. And really, acting wise, of the jobs I've done before, it's really the first thing that I can show to my children and not like get in trouble with the government or something. Like, it's I love it. And they're now at the perfect age where they are starting to watch like live action shows as opposed to cartoons. So it's great for me for a number of different reasons. So
I guess he just answered your next question, which is your favorite show you've been involved with. It sounds like this one.
Yeah, I would say.
As an actor.
Yeah. You know, a lot of times it tends to be, it's sort of a standard answer, but a lot of times it tends to be whatever one you're working on at the moment. But I really, because of my love of superhero stuff and comedy, and also they don't really make a lot of these multi-camera live audience sitcoms anymore. Like when I grew up, that's all there was. Yeah, that was TV almost every night, and then like Dallas would come on or something like that. So the fact that I get to do one of these, you know, other than Nickelodeon and Disney, like there's a few on CBS, like Big Bang Theory. There's a couple of those, but not really the way it used to be. So I'm very grateful for it. It's the best job.
So how does this...
Uh-oh.
What do you like more, performing on camera or on stage in front of a live audience?
Ooh, that's a very good question. What do I like more? I think I like the live audience more because it's a more honest relationship. Like, especially if you're making a movie or a TV show that doesn't have an audience, you really don't know how you're doing. You know, you're so depending on either another actor or the director or producer to kind of say, okay, that was good, let's try again. But it doesn't really, emotionally, doesn't give you anything. And in particular with comedy, if you're not hearing laughs, you're kind of like...
beats, you wonder where the beats are.
It's dying.
And with you've been in so many things, so also you're relying on the editor too.
Oh, absolutely.
I know I've talked to actors that have said, "Oh, I thought this was going to be a great movie, and it was just horrible, and we just had no idea." You know, you work on something for 6 months.
I'm sure you know, just from editing your own show, like the recording of, like the planning of it is one thing, the recording of it is another thing. And then in the editing, you really are starting over from the beginning. Like you could say, we recorded an hour of him talking, but we have a 4-minute show.
Right.
So you pick the little bits that work, and it's you're kind of creating it from scratch. That's why I love this job so much, Thundermans, is because we actually have the experience of getting the reactions from the live audience, and the crew is also great too. Like the writers are really generous laughers. It's
nice.
Oh yeah,
that's real nice.
It's yeah, like when it's quiet and you're like, it's funny. I apparently am a fool.
Well, I would do stand up here on the East Coast. I traveled to do stand up until we adopted the kids. And I was like, I just want to be home with them more than I want to be on stage, which is, right. I mean, if I was in LA, it'd be different because you can be on stage in 4 different places in one night. And the only place you can do that is like 2 cities here on the East Coast. So, so we decided to do stuff like this. And plus I get to encourage him to maybe one day move into the industry, because he's interested in it.
Doing it together, again, as a parent, I love it because
it's so much fun.
Oh, and you'll have this forever.
Right.
I mean,
I just cut out all the times when I yell at him. That's on the cutting room floor.
That's smart. That's just a smart creative
decision. Stupid. No, I don't say stupid. Oh. I said that to me.
Yeah.
But so having that live audience is nice. But what you said about the quiet room, I've been to LA to go to places, and when you're just surrounded in a room full of comics, like nobody showed up and it's just a room full of comics and there's just no laughter, it's just a bunch of smugness. And then you do something else in a different town and it's great, and you're just like, okay, either I stink or I have a room full of no laughers. And it's that.
Well, I think too, is coming from a world of live comedy, after a certain amount of time, I'm never really aware of it, but like you stop laughing, you're still in your head going, oh, that was funny.
Yeah, that's all you do. Even with great comedians, and it started bothering me. I'd see somebody and be like, yeah, that's really funny. And I'm like, what am I doing? I'm not enjoying this the right way anymore.
I'm observing it as opposed to like being there and being present.
Yeah, you're studying. And that was kind of heartbreaking for me too, because, I had to like take myself out of it and go, hey, first of all, you're not that good. And second of all, you need to just enjoy this moment you're missing. So
yeah, you're right. There's a friend of mine is a comedian named Paul F. Tompkins. And one of the reasons
best.
Yeah, he's the best.
Yeah.
In addition, obviously, to his talent and his material and everything, what I noticed about him is he is one of the most generous audience members I've ever seen. Like, he is the first person to cackle when somebody does something, and it really affected me because I was like, right, we're trying to be present and make ourselves laugh, but he's there. He is
It comes through in every podcast he's on, even when he's just a guest and he just holds back to like a minor role. You just hear his laugh. It's different than everybody's. And it's like, it makes it sweetens the show.
Oh, it really does. It changes it in a really wonderful way.
Right. Okay. And that, man, you have just led perfectly into our questions. It's like
I snuck in the studio early and I read all your questions ahead of me.
It's perfect. He hacked our iPad. Okay. So this is literally what I wrote. I just don't have his name out of some of them. I said, you get to hang out with like the coolest guys in Hollywood. I feel like you're in that cool group of Hollywood, and everybody basically that's not in LA is paying attention to the Clooney's and the Kardashians and stuff like that. But I think the real cool crew is the Paul Scheer, Jack Black, who you've worked with,
right?
PF, you get to work with all these guys, the Comedy Bang Bang guys,
right?
So, you have all the cool part of Hollywood without the paparazzi. I feel like
sure
that's not, and maybe the pay, but that's fine.
That's
But do you kind of feel like you're getting away with something because you get to hang out with just the best writers and comics around?
I definitely feel. Yeah, very grateful. I'm lucky. I feel like, I think a big piece of what we would call luck is sort of being ready to jump when opportunities sort of fall in front of you. Right. So it's the fact that like I've been improvising for over, gosh, it's coming up, I think, on 30 years. I've been improvising since I started in 1987 was my first professional show. And I was just a kid. I was 16, I think, when I first started.
Yeah.
And that's because the city that I grew up in Wisconsin, Madison, Wisconsin, had a improv company called Comedy Sports. And I was a huge fan, and they offered classes. And it was at a time before, now they have high school leagues, and, they have, but this was early on, so they just kind of had one class. And I, even though I was a Goonie, like, sophomore probably in high school, I think they just felt bad to say, no, you can't take the class with the adults. So they let me in. And so I've been, practicing improv for a long time. And so that more than anything else just taught me this idea of, there's a big tenet in improv, just that idea of yes and.
Right. Yeah.
And so when somebody says, hey, we're doing a show, yes, absolutely, I want to help out, I want to be there. Paul I met through improv. Paul Scheer I met in New York. There's a group called Chicago City Limits, which was a group of people from Second City in Chicago who I think in like the 70s left Second City and moved to New York with the intention. And so they opened up sort of a New York version of Second City, and that's Chicago City Limits. Yeah. So Paul and I were both there. And so I've known him for a really long time. Yeah.
I'm jealous of that one right there. I mean, I literally have Paul on my T-shirt.
Oh, do you?
How did this get made? I kind of think of this as how does this get made for kids. Not that we're trying to do, but it kind of is.
I would agree. And what a great show to model after. I love that podcast.
It's the best. Like that's my perfect get to talk to with Carlin is I'd love to talk to Paul Scheer sometime because he's he's a fave. And
a genuinely nice person too.
That's all I've heard about him. Yep. And he's everywhere and people know his face but have no idea who he is sometimes, I feel. I always try to describe, do you know him? Well, he's on Fresh Off the Boat. He's on this, he's on that. It's like you look at your IMDb page, it's huge.
I've been very lucky.
You were on Diagnosis Murder.
That's true. That was right when I moved to Los Angeles.
You got to meet Dick Van Dyke.
Oh, and that particular episode was called The Roast. So the premise of that particular episode is that Dick Van Dyke's character was getting roasted. So the other guest stars of that episode were Steve Allen, Audrey Meadows, Tim Conway, blanking on his name, who played the handyman on Newhart. Tom Poston. Yeah. Julia Duffy, who was also on Newhart. Just this murderer's row of old.
And that was like your second job, right?
Yeah.
First or second gig.
Yeah. And what was really nice is because there was just sort of this very special group of guest stars, right off the set, they set up this giant circle of directors' chairs so they could all sort of sit. And because they all knew each other, they would sit and trade stories.
And you just sat in the back going.
I did. Oh, yeah. On that episode, I get diagnosed with a case of murder. So I had plenty of time to sit there. And so because I was one of the other people, they allowed me to sit with them.
Oh, what a gift.
Yeah. And that, talk about like flying a wall. I tried not to move so they wouldn't notice
me. Don't notice me and throw me out.
And just tell your showbiz stories, talk about it. And it was unbelievable.
But between that job and the next job, like right away, you had to been like, I'm a star now. I'm with all these people. It's great. And then it goes like a couple months and you're like, oh, where did it all go?
That is a strange thing about this job is like, while you're working, you kind of feel like, oh, this is amazing. Like every day I get for this job, we shoot on the Paramount lot. Right. So every day I come to work, you drive under that arch. And I'm like, this is the greatest thing in the world.
Right.
But what's also, I think, another good side of that is then, I come home and I've spent time with my kids. And I think staying grounded and remembering just the little details of a true day-to-day life, I think it's really important because if you become so caught up in your own success or whatever it is, like you kind of become a goon.
I kind of feel like that's when you know the real good dads in Hollywood, when you see an interview and they're like, yeah, I just want to get a sitcom. It's not necessarily about the money, but I work a certain number of days. I get to see my kids at night. Yeah, I know it's long days, but you're like, I'm home every day.
Yeah.
And when I hear them talk about that, I'm like, oh, those are the good ones right there. They're,
Yeah, I would think that I would say that there's a lot of truth to that. Yeah, it is the closest to a 9 to 5 kind of schedule, and because like we know, like I said before, like we know that we start a new episode on Monday and we finish that episode on Friday. Like I know I am home over the weekend, and we're lucky. Like the schedule we have is we'll shoot 3 episodes, so 3 weeks, and then we'll have a week off to let the writers kind of catch up and get ahead.
nice. Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, so each month there's a whole week in that month that I'll just be home, and I'll help out and I'll take them to school, pick them up from school, try and spell my wife as much as I can because she carries a lot of the responsibility. And
but then you can take your nights and do like comedy stuff at night because you've been there during the day. That's kind of awesome.
It's a good
That's a good gig.
It's a very good gig. I highly recommend it.
Just to mention one guy, I just love who you've worked with. I think it's
okay.
Rob Schraub. That's how you say his name, right? You worked with him on Time Belt.
Yes.
Just researching your work and who you've worked with, and I see his name, and I'm like, how do I know that? And then I was like, oh, he wrote Scud, this comic book that's like so niche that only comic book nerds know.
Right.
And I was like, he's worked with everybody, like all of the coolest people.
Oh,
and
yeah.
you got to work with him all the time.
Rob is an insanely talented person.
And now he's doing bigger stuff. Yeah, Monster House.
He's directing the new Lego movie. That's what he's doing right now. Like he started that.
And that was his producer.
Wow.
It's awesome. And really, at that stage in the game with that show, it wasn't as much a producer as much as just your buddy, right?
Oh, we mean with Time Belt?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Well, Rob, when I first kind of figured out I wanted to do it, like I made the first episode with a friend of mine named Matt Taylor. We just kind of did it. And then my friend Steve Agee, because I didn't know how to do anything.
Steve Agee,
yeah. Steve essentially edited the first episode of Time Belt while I kind of sat over his shoulder and said, can we try it like that? And so at that first screening of Channel 101, I was lucky and Time Belt got picked up. And so as soon as I had to make another one, Rob was the one who turned me and said, you should probably make like a title sequence. And I was like, okay. And he's like, well, probably like this and this. And so I went out with Rob mostly and shot the stuff. And then Rob is the one he cut together that title sequence with that song, that Open Your Mind song. Like he did all of that. Awesome. The third episode, the one with the melty face where with Hitler getting his face, but like Raiders of the Lost Ark, Rob built that.
Really?
And that's Rob, because Rob's a huge, like, again, nerd, and has a lot of, like, Starlog magazines and things like that. So he went back to his old magazines and saw how they melted the head in Raiders of the Lost Ark and said, I want to try that.
That's awesome.
So yeah, basically turned his dining room for about 3 days. He just sat there with a bunch of crayons and a hot air gun and just melted all these crayons down until he had like a giant pile of red, giant pile of blue, and got, sort of like just, I can't remember, I think it was a pencil or something was the neck. And so he would sculpt, because he is a really talented artist. Right. So he would sculpt it all in layers. So again, following essentially the sort of how they did it from Raiders, and built the thing. And I think I sent him a picture of Jeremy, the actor who played that part, and sort of made it look like him. And then on the DVD, it may be online somewhere as well, we recorded ourselves doing that face melting thing. And the head itself is that big, probably. What is that?
Right.
About 3 inches big.
Right.
And so Rob is wearing like oven mitts because that hot gun gets very hot very quick. So Rob's down here with 2 of them on either side, kind of aiming like that at it. We have the camera on a tripod, and I grabbed a camera, and my friend Todd, I think, had a camera. So and it took 15 minutes, I think, for that thing to melt.
And then you speed it up.
Oh, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But yeah, just try again. A lot of Channel 101 stuff just comes out of people going, what if we tried to make lasers? Like, how do you do that? What if we tried to make a puppet show?
And I feel like this is great for him because we do stuff here at the most low budget that you can do, just like you were doing. Right. And the gift that we have with all the software, you can go on YouTube and say, how did Star Wars do this? Ooh. And it's like, oh, anybody can make lightsabers. I've seen people do lightsaber effects with their iPhone nowadays. And
Wow.
it's crazy to me. And he just takes this for granted. And you know, where you are on TV right now started out with you being in your living room melting a guy's face on a pencil.
I mean, honestly, that's how you learn it, is just sort of by setting goals for yourself. And like you probably know about this, there's a website thing called Video Copilot. Have you ever heard of it?
Yes, of course.
I never known that.
It's great.
It is great. Me and some friends did a sketch show for Microsoft probably now like 5 years ago, and they basically gave us a budget, and you know, it was a video game sort of nerd based sketch show, and so we set the bar very high for ourselves, and then we had to figure out like lightsabers. We had to figure out how to do, like, we did a bunch of Call of Duty sketches. So we had toys, but they don't fire anything. We didn't have.
But they have all the flashes and the sound effects, and you're like, I need a UFO. Okay, they've got a UFO. Yeah.
There's tutorials. I mean, that's to me, that's one of the greatest things about YouTube. In addition to the actual shows, just like I had to change something in my faucet, and there's 30 plumbers who are like, hey, so you got a Collinger R35. Here's how to change that one out.
It's like if you could just click exclude horrible northern accent that I can't understand. That's what you need on YouTube when you're looking for that stuff. Because I did the same thing. And hey, you got this flange. It's like, buddy, I'm skipping you and going to the lady.
I'm going to the one that's 3 minutes as opposed to 12.
Oh, yeah. I don't need to know how Rome did plumbing, just how to fix this.
Aqueducts, mainly aqueducts.
All right. So do you have any more questions for Chris, Carlin? We got off talking about my comedy nerd heroes, but that's fine. This is about me right now, not you.
So what's your dream project? Anybody you're dying to work with?
Ooh, good question.
That's like a great last question. Good job.
Who are my heroes? I really love Bill Murray. I would love to be able to work with him someday. We just watched his Christmas special on Netflix, and I absolutely loved it. I know I've heard from people that it's not everyone's cup of tea,
right?
But I love that movie Lost in Translation that was in, and it's very much in that vein.
Yeah, he turned a corner, and now he doesn't get everybody anymore. But if you love him, it's great.
Yeah, because like Ghostbusters is one of my favorite movies of all time. I love Bill Murray. If I got to keep on making things with like Paul F. Tompkins and like the guys from Super Ego is a podcast that I get to do sometimes, I would for sure do that.
Right.
Gosh, who else would I want to work with? Patton Oswalt. I think he's amazing. I'd love to get to do something with him. Albert Brooks.
Oh, he was on Fallon last night. I think.
Was he really?
Last night. Two segments.
Was he great?
Oh, he's just awesome. He was just telling stories, and you could tell half of the audience didn't really get it. And I was just like soaking it in. I'm like, this guy is it's masterclass whenever he talks.
Oh, he's so funny.
Because he doesn't care about being famous, and so he doesn't care about what he's talking about, other than it's interesting to him. He doesn't care if it sells to 100% of the people. If he gets 10 or 15, he doesn't care.
Yeah.
Like, it just was great. And he just sat back with his hat on, don't care, just delivering just gold, to me, at least.
Yeah, I'm with you.
He's the best. Him and his brother. They're just awesome. They're they're so great.
Is there anybody that you guys really want to have on the show? Like, do you guys have a wish list for guests that you want to talk to?
Well, I mean, all the guys that you talk about are Paul Shear's my big wish list guy. But Paul F. Tompkins, when I fell in love with him, A, on Mr. Show.
Yes.
And B, he had that special, and I'm not a drinker, but he had that special about drinking. You know the one I'm talking about, where he talks about, it's one long story. It's a 20-minute story.
And apparently 25. It was like an early HBO comedy special.
And he talks about it like, oh, I don't do that anymore. I've just grown so much. And I remember seeing that when I was so young, before I got on stage, and I was like, that guy is a master. He held a room for basically a cocktail story.
Yeah.
For 25 minutes. And just everybody was just rapt, just looking at him. You could just tell.
Yeah.
And they were with him all the way. And it went up and down. It was sad. It was funny. He's a genius. And you get to hang out with these people.
I'm a lucky dude.
I kick myself that I can't turn myself into you. That's the superpower I want. Bring it back to the Thundermans. I'm going to become Chris Tallman. My name's Chris. I could easily switch.
Essentially the same. We all have glasses.
Yes,
I like your shirt.
I appreciate it. You know, Plaid Dad blog, we kind of are sold on the plaid here. Yeah, it's kind of a thing. So,
how about you? Is there anybody you want to talk to?
I'm actually still thinking about it.
Like all of the kids shows he loves. So if he could ever talk to one of the kids from the kids shows, that would be great.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Oh, I would want to talk to the guy, your shirt reminds me of him, who was the voice of Chewbacca in Star Wars.
Oh, the voice of Chewbacca in Star Wars.
Peter Mayhew?
Peter Mayhew. Wow.
Oh, that's a good one.
A friend
That's a
of
really
mine got
great
to
one,
talk to
yeah.
him.
Oh, yeah, because they just did it. Did they just do like a tour on the East Coast promoting the comic book?
Right. Yeah, he's doing a lot of stuff, which is hard for him because it's hard for him to get around now.
Yeah.
So,
it
yeah.
is.
Man,
a friend of mine writes the Chewbacca comic book for Marvel and got to do like a mini tour. I think they were on the East Coast going around and said he was the nicest guy in the world.
Yeah, that's all I've ever heard about him. He's just so accommodating, even though it's literally painful for him to be in a certain spot for so long because he's so tall and he's bent up on those tables. He just pushes through, which is amazing.
I went to Comic-Con a few years ago, and you know, people always line up early in the morning, so this was probably like Friday or Saturday morning, and there was an older guy who was on crutches, but not sort of the traditional, like the armpit. They were more like the brace crutches, and he was at the door and knocking, trying to get the guard just to let him in to sit down. And the guard, she was doing her job. I'm sure she was told, don't let him in. And as he was knocking, I noticed he had an English accent. And so I just kind of looked and saw that his name tag said David Prowse. And I was like, that's Darth Vader.
Whoa.
Let Darth Vader come and sit down. Like, ignoring the fact that he's an older guy and clearly has trouble getting around.
Right.
It's Darth Vader.
Yeah.
Just let him sit. That was an upsetting moment to realize in fandom, like, oh, wow. It all comes down to that the lady at the door. No.
She wouldn't have believed him anyway. She would have said, "You're not James Earl Jones. You're lying. Obviously, you're British."
Yeah, you're clearly not Darth Vader because there's that guy right behind you who's dressed exactly like Darth. That's Darth Vader.
She's never heard the original tapes with that guy's voice that just sound horrible. That you can listen to on YouTube now.
Yes.
It's just the worst.
Oh, so funny.
All right. Well, I just want to thank you for coming on here with us. It's
my pleasure.
Way better than we ever expected, and I'm just so happy to, I'm trying to introduce Carlin into this kind of world, and he's interested in it. He's an artist, just like your friend. Neat. He draws comics, and we do these videos. He wrote a little short film that he starred in with me, and it's just today's world. You can get there this way. Yeah. You know, if you just really work hard and care about it.
And don't stop. I feel like that if there's one thing to take from any of this, it's just that tenacity and just saying, I'm doing this because I love it and I hope other people do too. But if it makes you happy, then don't stop. Keep doing it and find a way just to keep plugging away, because sooner or later something will click and someone will recognize your work. It takes time though sometimes.
Yeah. All right. Well, just thank you for coming on. We really appreciate it.
My pleasure. Do you have
I
any
was
other
very
questions?
happy to talk to you.
Oh, I'm so happy I get to talk to you too. Thank you for saying so. When I first saw your video, I was so excited. Obviously, just to hear anybody watching the show and liking it is a delight, but also because it's the two of you guys together sharing it, because that's how I experienced the show with my kids, you know, and so to sort of see that in your relationship, it was really nice.
All right. Well, just thank you for coming on. We really appreciate it.
My pleasure.
Hey guys, we'd really appreciate it if you click subscribe, so please do that right here. And if you'd like to see another funny video, well look, it's playing right here. All right, now click here if you want to rain fire down upon me. You don't want to do that. No, don't click it. Ah!
This production is brought to you by the Plaid Dad Blog Podcast Network. For more information, visit plaiddadblog.com.